So hi everyone, thank you very much for joining this EfL Online Workshop. Today we're going to be looking at tags, and also we're going to be looking at how indicators can be used to track engagement. Just during the EfL Online Workshop, if you have got any questions at all, if you could just make a note of them, if that's okay, and then towards the end of the session there'll be a question and answer session. I'll be very happy to answer any questions that you may have. So during the demonstration part of the webinar, please can just remain muted and make a note of any questions, and we'll look at them together at the end. In terms of what we're going to be looking at today, we're going to be exploring how tags can be used, and I'll try and show you some examples of some of the tags that other schools have used. Also, we'll look at how you can then use tags when you're capturing evidence. We'll also look at how you can use the preloaded DFE engagement indicator set when capturing evidence. And then we'll look at how you can locate evidence by tag or indicator set or a specific indicator. So we'll look at how you can search for evidence in your cloud, either using a tag or an indicator. We'll then look at how you can review indicator observations within an assessment book. And that will be first of all on the iOS app. And then we'll look at how you can see indicator observations also within the web console, so the browser version of the app. And then finally, we'll look at indicator reports, how you can make a PDF document that contains all the indicator observations, and that may be around engagement if you're using the DFE engagement indicator set. So we'll show you how you can create one of those very quickly, and then how you can also access it and review it before you upload it to the cloud. And then finally, as I've outlined, we'll have a question and answer session towards the end of the session. We'll be very happy to answer any questions that you may have. So what we'll do is I'll stop sharing this screen and we'll go across so I can start sharing my iPad screen. So before we get into tags and indicators, I just want to reflect for a moment in the first place of why we even capturing evidence. So evidence for learning is a toolkit that allows you to collectively create a comprehensive and vivid picture of what learning looks like for each of your learners over time. And if you're just linking evidence to frameworks, then you're only going to be focusing on the targets. So tags and indicators allow you to build up a comprehensive picture that includes what are the characteristics of that learner, what kind of pedagogies you're using, what level of support was needed, was the learner engaged, and what do you want to say about that engagement? So tags and indicators help you as a teacher and a school to create this rich picture of learning for each of your learners. 2 years ago, people were collecting evidence because a child could do something. They would take a photo, take a video, and they may see that child had done it a few times, and they would tick a box and then move on to the next thing. Those days are gone. If our friends in Ofsted now come in, they're going to want to talk to you about your learners. They're going to want you to tell them about a learner, and in particular, they'll want you to show them what progress looks like for that learner from a specific starting point. So evidence is more than just about achievement. It allows you to show a learner at various stages of progress, as well as capturing the inputs from the whole team of people that are working with that learner. So I do want to go now to look at how we can then start to capture evidence, and we can demonstrate tags and indicators. So I'm going to tap on capture in the middle. I'm going to not going to spend a long time on capturing the evidence, but I'm going to tap the plus to the right of learner, and I'm going to pick Michael Sheridan, who we're going to use as demonstration today. As you all know, I'm not in a school setting, so I'm going to add a video from my camera roll. So I'm going to tap on the plus, and I'm going to add a video. If I wanted to, I could also add a second video. I'm going to add a comment, so I'm going to tap the plus to the right of comments. Your school may be using comment templates, so then it'll set them up. So you then tap the magnifying glass. Again, to save time for today for demonstration, I'm just actually going to paste it from my notes. Just bear with me, sorry, just to save time. As you know, member staff could either write freehand in the comment box, or they could use the comment template. So the comment is gone in with the piece of evidence that I've recorded to, and I've just tapped done to the top right. And this is a real piece of evidence that schools let us use for demonstration purposes. So we have changed the name. Whenever I always think it makes sense as you as a team discuss what sort of evidence you are as a school wanting to collect, and also what sort of comments you want to build into your observations and evidence that you capture. So that's where common templates can be really useful because it gives us clear structure to it. But again, what works for each school is different. So you can see in this school, they made a small exposed synopsis of what was taking place in each video. They also made an overall comment around the intervention that was taking place, and also looked at what was taking place in terms of this particular activity for Michael. We have changed his name. And hopefully you're all familiar with the role of frameworks in terms of capturing evidence. The idea of the frameworks is that it's your outcomes. And as you know, there are two main types of frameworks in evidence for learning. So I'll just tap the plus to the right. When I say two main types, there are two types of frameworks in evidence for learning. There are PLGs, personal learning goals, which is a set of personalized outcomes for a specific learner. So I'm just going to tap on this one here for Michael. Again, all schools structure their PLGs in ways that work for them. I can collapse the framework down. I can expand it if I wanted to be able to show the whole framework. And we're going to link this piece of evidence to this outcome here. Just bear with me. This one here. So the grey dots just indicate that observation or evidence for Michael has already been linked to it. It doesn't indicate how many, but it's a really nice feature. So I'm also going to link this piece of evidence to this specific outcome here. And I'm going to say done at the top right. And as you know, the other type of framework that's not a PLG, so it's not a framework that's specific to one learner. I mean, that could be a framework that's being used with more than one learner. So it could be a maths framework, it could be an accreditation framework, AET Autism is an example, Development Matters are, so is pivots or pre-key stage standards. So there are two types of frameworks in evidence for learning. And it's, I suppose, those frameworks that are being used for more than one learner, I suppose that's more around however you're breaking down your curriculum. So when you're gathering evidence, you'll quite often want to show what you're doing today links to those objectives. And those are the framework items that we just talked about. And if Ofsted do come in, and just from your own perspective, you also have an obligation to show as a school how you're meeting the needs of the learner as defined in the EHCP. And you also have to show how you're providing a broad and rich and balanced curriculum. So that's why you may want to use both types of frameworks, the PLGs and the frameworks that aren't PLGs that are being used with more than one learner. You may also want to bring in observations and reflections around the learner's characteristics, their well-being, resources that were being used in the activity, interventions that are taking place. And this is why tags and indicators can help you build up that comprehensive picture of what learning looks like for each of your learners. So if we think of a piece of evidence as having different layers, this piece of evidence, we've added some photos and videos. We've also added a comment. We've also linked it to a specific framework item, in this case, Michael's PLG. And now again, if we wanted to build up that rich picture, this is where tags and indicators can really become really useful. So tags are a great way to embed into your evidence key language around how you work with your learners. It may be around language around learning, language around curriculum, language around interventions, and how you're adjusting your curriculum or the way that you're working with a learner to help them to progress. So I'm going to tap on the plus to the right of tags. Schools set up tags in a way that works for them. And most schools, I would recommend, start off with a small group of tags, and then they start to build out their use of tags as they're working with teachers, and they're working out what is going to be really useful for them to set up and use as a tag. So tags are a great way of embedding key language into evidence capture. And you can also filter by tag at a later date. So you'll be able to find all the evidence that's been given a specific tag, either for Michael or for a particular class or across your whole school. So these are just some examples. I'm sure you've already got some tags set up in your school, but this is just to give you some examples of what some schools use as tags. So you may want to set up a tag for the different areas of curriculum. There might be some curriculum areas such as music or phonics that you may not have a set framework of evidence for learning, but if you have, or alongside that, you also want to tag it so you can find all the evidence that was linked to phonics, either for a specific learner or for a group. As well, you may want to record that specific intervention was taking place. So schools can create their own tags that work for them. Again, you might want to look at the different sort of resources that were being used during the teaching, or there may be particular values that you promote across the school. You may have nice displays around the school saying these are our key values, this is what we try and promote in our learners and young people, and tags are a great way to demonstrate that, because every time you're doing some work around respect or kindness, if that was one of your key values, you could tag your evidence for that, and then you could demonstrate that to stakeholders when they come into your school. So you can build into your tags language around pedagogy, curriculums, learning, values, and demonstrate that you really live your values and try and promote that for your learners. You will probably notice that with all these tags that we've set up in this practice school, we have added a prefix to most of them, or in this case, all of them. That's just because the tags are displayed now alphabetical order. If you don't put a prefix in there, then all your curriculum tags may be mixed up with your values and your interventions, and it may be harder for your teaching assistants and teachers and therapists when they're capturing evidence to locate the tag that they want to use. So you may want to consider adding a prefix to your tags so it groups them together as it is on the screen, so it's easier to locate the type of tag and then the specific tag that you want to use at a particular time. So many of your learners will have a support plan. A typical Ofsted question may be, show me how you've incorporated Michael's support plan from the speech and language team into the way that you've been working with him, supported him in reading and phonics. So you could use a speech and language tag, for example. And then every single time you're incorporating any aspect of the speech and language plan into what you're doing, you would also tag it as that. So at a later date, you can search evidence by a specific tag. And again, this supports members of staff to reflect and to have conversations with each other around the learning and the teaching that was taking place. So let's also say this particular tag, which one I might do, bear with me. Okay, so I'm going to use the speech and language tag on this occasion, but again, if this was being work done around respect, then I'd also be able to tag that. So you can tag a piece of evidence, can have a number of tags on it. And then I'm going to tap done at the top right. So this piece of evidence now, again, we think about it as different layers. We've added the photos and videos. We've added some comments to go with the piece of evidence. We've also added some framework links. And we've also added some tags. We're going to look at indicators in a moment, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save this piece of evidence to the cloud. So as you know, you turn it from orange to green, and you'd press save to upload that evidence to the cloud. And probably 95% of the time that schools are collecting evidence, that might be around gathering photos and videos, adding a comment and linking it to a framework. There may be other occasions that we'll look at in a moment where you want to do a deeper dive, and that's where you might use indicators. But just to show you how you can locate evidence in the cloud by tag, you can tap on the evidence icon underneath capture. You can then filter the evidence by tapping filter at the top right. This screen just remembers what you searched the last time on your specific device, so you can change it if you wanted to make it to be the cloud. And as you can see now, this is where you can really dive deeper in terms of using a specific date range or a group of learners, or in this case, we're going to look for all the evidence for Michael. So we could search for Michael. And then if I wanted to, I could look at all the evidence by a specific tag. So we could look at all the evidence for Michael, first of all, just to show you that, say apply. If we want to delve down deeper, we could actually filter that evidence at the top right and actually click on all to the right of tags. And this is where you might want to look at all the speech and language work that we've been doing with Michael. So you just select the tag that you want to be able to search for, press done, and then press apply. And you'll see all the evidence that we've worked on for the Michael that's incorporated any work we've done around his speech and language. So I'm just going to tap into that piece of evidence that we've gathered today. So as I said, there's going to be occasions where you want to do a deeper dive. A good example where you might want to do a deeper dive in terms of the observations that you're gathering might be around where you want to use the new engagement model to support how you're working with a learner. I'm talking here around formative assessment. So schools are using the engagement model with certain learners as a means to better engage them in the learning. So that's particularly after the lockdowns and the numerous times of either staff or learners not being in schools, so that they can reconnect with them, so that they can become a more effective learner. And this is why schools are using indicators, especially for those learners who are not engaged in subject-specific learning. So we could have added the indicator information when we were gathering the observations. I want to focus on tags first of all. What we're now going to do is we're going to add some indicator information to this piece of evidence. So again, we've added the photos and videos. I'm going to edit it by turning it to orange. And I'm going to scroll down then to where we can actually add in the indicator information too. So I'm going to tap the plus to the right of indicators. It's a practice school, so we have a number of different indicator sets on the system. Your school, you may only have engagement model, or you may have one or two other ones too. Well, I've tapped on the engagement model DFE, and this is preloaded and available for schools to start to use if you're not already using it. So this has got the 5 areas of engagement. And what's nice about it now is you've got the opportunity, if you wanted to, do that deeper dive and to record detailed observational notes around one or more of these areas of engagement on this particular day for Michael and relating to his learning that was taking place. So for example, again, I'm just going to go back to my notes just to save time in terms of what we're going to type out. So let me just gather the text. I'll do. So I'm going to add some persistence, observation data around persistence. So I'll just tap on persistence. And then you can, again, this is the preloaded version, but you can customize this for your school before you start to use it. So the guidance from the DFE and the Rochford review didn't give a continuum to use to be able to track engagement. They wanted you to be able to use what you felt works for you and your school. So this is a preloaded version, so it's from disengaged to fully sustained. But if you already have a different language around engagement, you could change the continuum to be able to fit with the language that you're already familiar with in terms of what you're using as staff and with learners and with families. But what I'm going to do now is tap on fleeting on this particular occasion. And again, the questions that you've been asked here, again, you can customize it before you start to use it, but this is the preloaded version. But one of the main things we took away from the Rochford review was encouraging members of staff to reflect on what they would do differently in the future around the teaching, around the environment, around the activity, to be able to encourage Michael to show more persistence in this case in his learning. So what we're also going to do, the second text box then, is encouraging members of staff to reflect on what they will do differently and why. But again, you can customize these questions for you and your school. So again, I'm just going to go back to my notes just to save time for now. So you don't have to watch me type it all out. And then I'm just going to press save at the top right. Just to point out, before I press save, if you ever want to, you can just tap quick review, which is a really nice feature, because then that then means I can just click on play here to be able to play the video. So if you want to be able to play the video again, as you're making these observation notes, it takes you straight back here and you can play the video. I'll just press cancel to go back to where I was. And now I am going to press save at the top right. Again, to save time today, I'm not going to add detailed observational notes around the other areas, but I will, just so you can see the next part, I will add in a sort of score. So I'm going to tap on exploration. In this case, I'm going to say Michael will show mostly sustained in terms of exploration. I'm not going to fill in the text, but obviously you could if you wanted to when you were doing it for yourselves. I'll do the same for realization. Let's say it's partially sustained. And as you can see, if you don't fill in the text, the question is just not displayed. And again, when you're doing this for real, you may choose to fill in one or more of these areas of engagement, including all 5 areas on the piece of evidence. Let's go down to initiation, and let's say that was fleeting. So you can use engagement to really inform your design of learning. And you can talk about, why you did what you did, how did you change it, and why did you change it. What I really like about the indicator set around engagement is this is the table view, but when you filled it in or at any point, you can also tap on the chart view just here. And this then displays the indicator information in the form of a spider web. It takes away all the text, it takes away all the jargon, and you can quickly see that on this particular day involved in his learning, Michael showed more exploration, realization, and anticipation than he did in terms of initiation and persistence. So the higher the point is here, you can see it's mostly sustained, so it's showing more of it. The closer it is to the middle of the spider web, the less initiation or persistence Michael was showing on this particular day. And what I really like about this is it just makes me think it's going to prompt and facilitate conversations between members of staff to see, first of all, how engagement looked on this particular time. But also you might want to play back a video. One of your colleagues might look back on the video and actually say, okay, I can see you didn't see much anticipation, but actually when I look back at the video, I can see, the learner leant forward, or he moved his eyes to you, or she did. And maybe, the great thing about evidence for learning is it facilitates people to look back, I suppose, particularly with the videos, but as well as the photos, and discuss what they saw and explore engagement together. I also think this is a great way to facilitate conversations with families and carers, because again, it just takes away all that jargon or text. So that's how you can gather indicator information. I'm going to go back to the piece of evidence. And again, you may not, most times you're collecting evidence, you may be taking a photo and video, you may be adding a comment, and you may, if you want to, be linking it to frameworks and adding tags. At certain points, on certain times, you may want to do a deeper dive, and that's where the indicators can be really useful to be able to help you record detailed observational notes around engagement. So I'm just going to come back out of, I'm going to save that actually, top right, so let's save that piece of evidence. So I'm still, just so you can see where I am, I'm still in the filter screen here, filter evidence. So let's go back to it here. Again, it just remembers what you looked at last time. I could have actually tapped back into that. Let's just let the zoom catch up. I'm just going to put it back to being green and pressing save. But if I wanted to, I could filter at the top right. And as before, we were searching by tag. I just want to show you how you can also filter by indicator. So we can tap on all to the right of indicators. And if I wanted to, then I could either search for all the any information. Sorry, let's do that differently. Let's tap different places. What I could do, I changed my plan. You could tap on engagement model DFE, and that would show any engagement, any evidence that had any of these areas of any of these indicators information gathered. Or if you wanted to, you could just select initiation and look at all the evidence in the cloud for Michael that's had any initiation indicator information gathered. You just press apply at the top right. Again, if you wanted to, you might want to look across the school. So if you wanted to, you could change it from looking at Michael and look at all the persistence information, persistent observations that's been gathered across the whole school or a group of learners, and the same with tags. So I'm just going to come back out of where we were just there. Next thing I want to look at is how you can look at engagement information that's been gathered within an assessment book. So as you know, the assessment books on the app are accessed down here at the bottom right. So I'm just going to click there. Each individual user has their own unique login once they've been set up as either an assessment user or an assessment manager. I'm an assessment manager, so I can click show all at the bottom right, and I'll see all the assessment books. If I was an assessment user, I'll see the assessment books that I've got permission to see. So what I can now do is I can tap in to Michael's Sheridan's assessment book, part of his PLG. And then what we'll see here is we'll see all the framework items displayed down the left-hand side. And as you know, you'll see the evidence count within the evidence column. And what you can do is you can tap on any of the evidence column count to be able to see all the evidence that's been linked to the specific outcome. What we can also do, if indicator information has been gathered, we can also tap on this indicator icon just here. So I'm going to tap on that now. And then what we can do if we wanted to, this will show all the indicator information that's been gathered against that specific outcome. We can tap on the chart view straight away. We can scroll down to be able to see, so let's let Zoom catch up. We can scroll down to be able to see the different times engagements information has been gathered and it's displayed in the spider web. And again, I just think the spider web's a really nice way to display engagement on a particular day. So I'm just going to come back out of the assessment book area. What they also want to do is just be able to log into the web console. So just bear with me one moment while I just switch across my screens. So the web console is the browser version of the Evidence for Learning app. And once observation or indicator information has been gathered through the apps, then what you can do is you can also locate that and review that using the desktop computer and using the web console. So I'm just going to log into it now. And then I'll be able to show you. So I've just logged into Test School for the web console. A little torch on again, so you should be able to see it. So what we could do again, as you know, this is a screen on the evidence screen where you can locate evidence. What I can also do is I could search for a specific learner. So I could search for Michael. Press search. All the evidence will then be displayed. If I wanted to, in the middle section, I could drill down further to look at a specific tag. So you could search again for either across the school or a group of learners, any evidence that's got a specific tag. What I also want to show you is how you can search or look at the indicator information that's been gathered for Michael. So this first view is showing it in a sort of a tiled view. We can also change the view on the right-hand side here, so you get a larger view of each piece of evidence that's being displayed. And as soon as you scroll down and you see indicator information has been gathered, you'll see a spider web, and you can click on that, and then that will display the evidence then. At any time any information has been gathered around indicators, it will display it within the spider web. So I can just scroll down, and then we can see any other information that's been gathered for Michael around the engagement model. So just to go back to the top of here, this is the evidence screen. You can filter at the top by group or by specific learner. If you don't, it will show you all the learners in the school. You can use this area here to drill down by either framework and or by specific tag, and also to see the indicator information. You can change the view as we did on the right hand side, and then we clicked on the spider web view to be able to see it's a spider web. So I'm just going to stop sharing there and actually go back to the app. And again, there will be an opportunity for questions and answers at the end. So hopefully my app screen will be coming back up on yours in one moment. So the other thing I wanted to demonstrate to you today is to show you how you can make an indicator report. And that might be able to be used to be able to feed back to parents at the end of this academic year. My understanding is that there's a statutory requirement for those learners who are working below subject-specific levels for schools to feed back to parents on engagement. And one way a number of schools are planning to do it would be able to click on PDF just here. At the top is where it's documents, and that's where you can make a learning journey that contains all the learner's evidence. And that's at the top. And there's further guides and videos available within the EfL Online Resource Centre on that. But what we're going to focus on is a specific type of report, an indicator report. Again, like document settings at the top, there's also indicator report settings. So you can tap on that. And this is device specific. So you can name the report what you'd like to call it. You just then click in the footer box to recognize or make the system register you've made a change. You can also scroll down and you can make various choices. So I've chose to hide the framework links. You can include them. Again, you can hide the tags if you want to. It's up to you really. And I was mainly wanting to show you that you can choose here the sort of settings that you want. And then this would update it on your specific device. I can also press the cross at the top left then. And then what I can do is actually create an indicator report. So I'm going to tap on new indicator or notes reports. You then pick the indicator set that you want to make the report to be focused on. So I'm going to pick engagement model DFE. You then can drill down further. So I'm going to do this for one learner. I'm going to do it for Michael. But again, like the other type of reports, you could do it for a whole group, a whole class of learners at once. And if you wanted to, select making a PDF per learner. So you then end up with a PDF for each learner within the group report that you're trying to create. The next thing I'm going to do is I want to use a particular date range. So I'm going to tap on all from date range, and I'm going to pick a particular date range in our cloud. You can then group the indicator report either by indicator / notes or by evidence. So I've chose to include it by sort it by indicator, and I love a graph, so I've chose to include a chart. And I'll just press next at the top right. It will then make the PDF document. So you just tap OK. You can review that straight away within the learner profile section. So I'm going to tap on learner profile. I'm going to go in to see Michael Sheridan's learner profile page. So let's just scroll down and tap on it here. And this is the report that we've literally just made together today at 2 o'clock. So you can see it's called engagement and it's for Michael Sheridan. You can tap on it. This would also have your school logo on, your school name. It would have the name of whatever you named your reports. I've called it engagement, and then you can scroll down. So then what this gives you is it gives you, first of all, a summary of each score being added up together. So it's giving you every single time engagement information is being gathered for Michael, an overall graph is presented. And then we can scroll down further to be able to see each of the 5 areas of engagement. And I suppose the way I see engagement, it's going to be at times a very spiky up and down. You know, that's how engagement really is. And I suppose what it'd be interesting to ask and have conversations about is, okay, well, what was going on differently on this particular day for Michael in terms of exploration compared to this day? You know, what can we learn from this to be able to try and have encourage Michael to show more exploration more of the time? But engagement will be up and down for various different reasons. For Michael, I'm sure, as it would be for all learners, including myself. So we've got exploration, realization, anticipation, persistence, and initiation. The bigger gap in terms of the gap on the line graph is just the difference between the length of time between indicator information or observational data around engagements being gathered. And then I can scroll down further, and then to support the information above, you then get the detailed indicator observational notes that's been gathered. You saw I chose to group it all by indicator, so therefore all the exploration observational notes be recorded together, as well as then moving on to the next section. So we can just scroll through to give you a bit of an idea of the sort of reports that you'd be able to create at your school too. And then you can see now it's moved on to realization. So I'm just going to come back out of there. One thing I just didn't include was that, remember I showed you that summary graph at the beginning? I just want to show you where that comes from on a real piece of evidence. So if we go back into a piece of evidence that we gathered today, I'm going to scroll down. So this is the indicator information that we've gathered as well. So I can just tap on this chart view here. This is giving a spider web view. I just want to show you the table view is where you can enter in the observations or the notes. And the final view I didn't show you was the blob view. So I just want to show you that one too. So just bring that up, let Zoom catch up. So this is where that overall score is coming up. It's an option that you can choose or edit from the default preloaded version, but it's switched on to be able to add up the overall scores to give you a summary score of engagement on the 12th of January for Michael. But again, you can switch that off if you don't want it to give you a sort of summary total. The other thing that will be developed over time is I really do like these chart views within the spider webs. We are looking at ways of incorporating that into the PDF that you've just seen. So at the moment, the PDF is a line chart. So there are we will look at ways of incorporating in the spider webs into them as the PDF. We're also looking at ways of being able to show maybe the way the spider web would change over time in relation to Michael and in relation to his particular engagement on an activity. But hopefully, going back to where we started really, of evidence for learning, building up a rich and comprehensive picture of what learning looks like for each of your learners. Hopefully be able to see the evidence today and be able to see the different layers of evidence, be able to see you can add photos and videos, you can add your detailed comments, you can link it to frameworks, those two types of frameworks, either frameworks that's specific to one learner or those frameworks which might be around your curriculum or accreditation, as well as then building in tags and indicators. So tags and indicators really help you to build up that rich and comprehensive picture of what learning looks like for each of your learners over time. We've looked at what tags can be used for, and again, each school creates the tags that they think are going to be useful for them. What do they want to build into their evidence, and also what types of evidence that they want to look out for in the future? What type of learning or teaching is going to be really useful for them to be able to highlight, find very quickly in their cloud. We've also looked at indicators and to see how that can be used for engagement in this case. So hopefully that has been useful. I'm now going to open up the floor really for any sort of questions and answers from any of you. So if you have got any questions, you may not have all the answers, but if you've got any questions, just please unmute yourself and just ask. Final opportunity for anyone to ask a question. Okay, well, thank you very much for attending this EfL online workshop. As ever, always get in touch if you've got any further questions. You can email us at services@theteachercloud.net. So that's services@theteachercloud.net. And hope you've enjoyed this EfL online workshop. Where you've registered for the EfL online workshop to join today, the recording of this session will be added on there in the next few days. So if any of your colleagues weren't able to attend today, you'd be able to go back to where you registered and you'll be able to access the recording early next week. Hope that's been useful for everyone and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.